Hey, Dishin Days fans, welcome. We have a fun little interview with two people that you guys know. First off, I'm your host, Tony Moore, and I'm joined by,
Justin Harold.
and we have Mr. Bryan Datillo and Lindsay Arnold with us this morning. How are you guys?
Yes.
Hey.
Morning.
Hey.
Yo.
So first off, I want to ask you both, how do you feel about the history continuing to be incorporated into the show? Because with this storyline, Lindsay, we got to kind of revert back to when Sammy was raped and what she did in order to gain justice. How do you guys feel about, the storylines incorporating the history of the show?
It's good writing. Good writing.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
Good.
I think it's cool. I think it's really nice to give little, kind of flashbacks and incorporate mother-daughter things. I think for me, it's a little bit nerve-wracking because my mom is, Allie Sweeney and Sammy Brady. So that's a lot to live up to. And Allie and myself are not, not the same thing. Allie is not Sammy. Allie's not as much of, that fire that Sammy has. Allie's a little chiller. She's a little more shy, I think. And so as much as I'm like, oh, I love that they're making me want to be her, we saw it in the scenes, I ended up being like, all right, I'm going to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really fun. And I love that. I love, the tying it all in, because that's kind of the great thing about the show, right? It's years and years of history that you can tie back in. But at the same time, I'm like, guys, don't compare me right now, because I think it's kind of finding the balance.
Yeah.
Lindsay, you've had some really heavy storylines since you joined. I know you talked a little bit about the sexual assault, but what did you think of the motherhood storyline when you were first coming on, and Allie's sort of journey into motherhood?
So I learned about that. I mentioned this I think before, but I learned about that that I was pregnant 3 days or 2 days before I started shooting. So I didn't have a ton of time to really figure out that. So which was great, because I think Allie didn't have a lot of time to figure that out either. She was 5-6 months pregnant and was like, what do I do? So I think it was fun to kind of myself figure that out, what being a mother is like, while Allie is also figuring it out, because both of us, started in this headspace of a baby, what, being pregnant, what?
Yeah.
And so I think it was actually really helpful to go on that journey of learning how to love being a mother and learning how to be comfortable having that kind of responsibility and love for another person.
Yeah. And I think since the rape storyline has come out, it gives the audience or some of us a different perspective on those scenes and your portrayal of it. So
Bryan, I have to first say, I went back and I watched the courtroom scene with you and Sammy, and right when what's his name?
Alan.
Yes, when Alan got off and everything, and I was like, look at the young Bryan Datillo coming into the courtroom. He still looks the same.
Was that when I beat him up? You see me beat him up?
Yeah, you punch him in the face. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good shot, man. That was good stunt work right there. I was like, man, I look strong. I took care of him. I thought I was Galen Gehring. I thought I was raped.
but for you, with such a history on the show, what is it like now to see Lucas where he is now, and to now also have Allie being older now? Because when we last saw Allie, Lucas and Sammy had babies. Now y'all got grown children. So how has that been for you to see this evolution of Lucas and where he is now?
Well, I think it's a trip, first of all, because in my real life, I also have a 21-year-old son.
Yeah.
So that, I think the key to being a parent outside of work is kind of changing your relationship with your kids as they grow up. So you don't keep treating them as a young kid.
Yeah.
So with Allie, I kind of try to use a little of that, where I don't want to treat her like a kid in the situation, and I don't want to talk down to her. But then there are some times when he just gets mad because of the situation at her.
Yeah.
So I don't know. In that way, it's been a little bit similar, you know. Let's see. I don't know. I always get off on a tangent, and I never know if I'm answering the question.
No, you are.
But it's a trip to see it kind of come full circle, because having played the role for so long, and you see how much time has actually gone by, because you don't realize it when you're just going through it. But when you dig up history and go, oh man, that did happen. Oh, that was me. Oh, I remember that whole thing. So it's weird when you go back. I got to stay off YouTube, because when I start looking at old Lucas, I'm like, holy man, I was pretty good back then.
Yeah.
I was rocking it back then.
Back then, you're still good. You're still good.
No, but like back then, I was punching people out and stuff. It was cool, dude. It was a lot cooler than it is now. But I don't know. It's I don't know. I think, like Lindsay said, it's so cool when they bring up the history of it, because there's so much history to tap into on the show. They might as well take advantage of it, and I think they do a great job.
Okay, and we have one more question coming from Justin.
Yeah. Bryan, I just want to congratulations on the contract. It's great to see you. Whenever your Lucas is brought up on our show, you're an instant fan favorite. The chat room goes wild. It's always give Lucas more storyline. He's great. Why aren't we seeing more Lucas? Make him front burner. So it's great that we're going to see much more Lucas in the future.
Thank you.
I did have to ask you, what do you as Bryan see in Lindsay's performance that remind you of Lucas? Are there any characteristics of like, oh, that maybe she's getting this from me, or like we shared this in common, or this reminds me of when I was her age on the show?
I do think that the writers made a lot of good choices for her to kind of have Lucas's logic in a sense, where she's trying to process things, you know, as they're overwhelming and out of control, but yet it's how not a normal person would process it, but a healthier person, as opposed to like a Sammy person who goes off and just goes crazy. Although Lucas is a little bit crazy himself too. So it's almost cool, because Lindsay is so good at playing both angles of Sammy and Lucas that you kind of see it come out in little spurts here and there. And I always feel bad for her, because she's always got such emotional stuff to do. So, and she's always got the big speeches. She's always crying. So whenever I'm working with her, I'm always like, I hope I don't screw up this lead-in line, because I know she's got such a good scene coming up. And I think as we get more into it in the future, hopefully, she'll kind of get more support in those scenes like that, you know, dialogue-wise and emotion-wise. I think there's still a lot that has to be, you know, between the two characters that have to be kind of, and the three characters really, her parents and all of them. So yeah, she's excellent at handling the workload and the emotion of it, which is the hardest thing about the job, because you can't help but go home and just feel like you've been zapped.
Yeah.
You know?
Before we head out, Lindsay, I have to officially give you Tony's 3 Snaps Award for your scene the other day when you were sitting with Claire and you were like, girl, spill the tea. I was like, yes, I love that our little sayings are being incorporated.
Yeah.
I saw it in the script. I was like, who wrote this?
Tony was in the writer's room that day.
I was so excited when I saw that. I was like, yes, add this language in, loving that.
Yes, I was sitting on my couch like, yes, let's spill the tea. I pulled out my tea mug and everything. Well, thank you guys so much for sitting down with us, and we wish you nothing but the best. And of course, happy holidays to you and yours.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, you guys.